And we are live. One quick second. Let me lower this, connect everything on Pro Tools because I have to make sure these are fully charged. Hold on. Official test start time 2 minutes. You guys have time to get in. And we're going to do the full exam for today. So you guys are going to write 5 paragraphs, okay? 5 sentences each paragraph, 5 words minimum per sentence. 5 computer spaces in between. 5 revisions, show all the work. I don't care if you use chicken scratch, you can use your hyper scientific, and you can use any artificial intelligence, but you must show the work. If you do not show the work, I'm going to assume you just use technology, you'll get no credit for it. So welcome. We have a lot to explore. We're going to be building the module based on real day-to-day data. Give me one quick second because you know how these things are. Okay, so basically, we have a competitor that just sold a high performance vehicle to a very good friend of the family. This person is like family to me. I look up to this person, entrepreneur, mad successful, just like me. The only thing he does is he likes to spend time with his family and work on his car. So he just purchased the new KTM. It's the new version of the Attack. Remember, the Attack ran on a Honda 4-cylinder. The company has merged with Volkswagen Group in the Audi division. So, for example, the road version of the car, if you do not opt for the carbon ceramic discs, those are the units from the R8. And the R8, by comparison, is 300 additional kilograms. So, it's not necessary unless you're only going to use it as a race car to get the carbon ceramic because they have a higher temperature and they won't get as hot as quickly. But because the car is lighter, that should be enough. I personally would have still gotten the carbon ceramic, even though it's a higher expense for the replacement. But the car is brand new. For the time to worry about replacing parts is within the first 5-10 years of ownership of the vehicle. Now, it's very interesting that even with all of the options, um, we have an issue because their vehicle is retailing at 300,000. That's with options. That's all exposed carbon, um, custom wheels, custom interior, custom paint job, like 300,000 out the door. And you have options as low as 14,000. To give you an example, we need to deliver a vehicle below 100,000 to be competitive. There's just no way that the company will be profitable. And remember that the more expensive the the starter vehicle is, then the more expensive the build. If I spend 100,000 on an eighth generation Corvette and I build a supercar on top of it, how can I release it for less than 300,000? Now, in real time, I have to do the research on this particular vehicle and compare it to what we are able to do, then balance everything out. I want you guys to balance it out as if you're the CEO of the company. You have to keep track of the budget. You have an idea on your manufacturing, designing, and engineering capabilities. But you also have learned the tough lesson when you first got into technology, as I did. I came into technology with a few $1 million. I didn't think it was going to take more than that, but I invested over 12 times the initial capital because I didn't understand technology moves so fast. The people that can invest in it are able to make a profit off of it. And when the new product, new hardware, new software is available, they move on to the next platform. I also want to make a commentary about like applications that have like a monthly subscription where if you stop using the technology, let's say for your enterprise, once you stop paying every month, it doesn't work. So I like the open source movement where the community can decide how to make it better. And literally, if you think about it, we as programmers are sharing the developmental costs because we have to test all of this technology. And you have people that are in the industry, in the business, in the trade, willing to work on these systems using their own time and money. So why shouldn't there be a partnership? Why shouldn't there be access to combine technologies and improve on them? Because, for example, working on so many of these different prototypes, I really thought about a version called Companion, and that's a new investment for me. And it was birthed organically, naturally. I didn't force anything, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized there's potential here. So now you as the CEO of the company, you're that person that is in charge of financing, right? What do you do? Do you continue to invest in this new technology, or do you try to solve the puzzle of releasing a hypercar for under 100,000? I had designs that were, between 60 and 80,000, but profitable is the key word here, and that's what you're going to write your papers on. It has to be profitable. Is it better for me short term to take the loss on each vehicle that I release, making maybe a 20% margin on every vehicle, or continuing to invest, deca millions of dollars into this new investment called Companion? And there's going to be time to modify it. This is the radar plex version of Companion. So, for example, in automotive design, I'm up to like the fourth or fifth wing that can adjust with radar plex, right? So now we have Companion that can be an assistant, but it can help you in many things. It's not complete. It's gonna take time for me to finish it, but I have so many different versions that now I realized that one of my prototypes challenged the other prototype, and it gave me an idea. I said, you know what? I can teach a masterclass on this absolutely for free, based on engineering, with the perspective of giving you guys a day-to-day example in real time. So look how many factors I have to deal with in just my portfolio, right? So I sell exotic vehicles, right? I'm in the import export business. Now you realize I don't just import supercars. It could be art, it could be motorcycles, it could be, just power sports, right? Now I'm also in the technology business, right? So I lost a sale on this car in a commission, but this is a friend, so it didn't, I was not going to make anything off a friend, right? But it made me realize from a person that I have respect for on the business level, right? On the business realm as a mentor, I'm saying to myself, man, I got you the best deal I could get you on this car. It was 300,000. My price, I gave it to him my price, right? I don't think I can deliver in my automotive firm. We cannot deliver a super hyper sports car for that price. Just look at the example of the 355, which I'm going to say it once again. The most beautiful car design is the F355 Berlinetta. There's no question about it. It has so much infused of so many different cars, and it does it very well. Not perfectly, just marvelously. You know, the rebrand remake for an Italian company, a privateer, just like the company that does the new Lamborghini SVs, basically. Well, not SVs, like kind of like the 6.0 remixes. The cars are a few $1 million, and the donor vehicle you can find it for less than 2 or 300,000. But my friend just bought a supercar, all carbon construction, 300,000. I don't think I can deliver a vehicle for that price because not only am I building something that's so top of the line, it's just the cost of manufacturing is through the roof. It's just too much. Right now, there's uncertainty with everything that's going on in the world. And as a CEO of this company, you have to think long term. So it's actually much better for me to cut my losses and just go into software again instead of being so worried and dependent on hardware. Why? Because the potential for growth is 72, 73% higher. So Companion gives me a sense of calmness and a soothing because I don't have to worry about automotive design. I have the toy line where I can use all of those designs for the toy line. And the toy line is educational. So now I'm opening a brand new avenue for my company and my corporation to produce a dividend. So I'm dealing with a mentor who's also a friend, who's family. Got him the best deal on this KTM, 300,000, my price. I realized from an engineering standpoint, you know what? I cannot build a supercar, let's say based off a C8 Corvette, a Stingray, and be able to be profitable at 100,000. It's just, it's impossible. It's an impossibility. You know what I mean? Um, Even if I use the old 360 Modena or F430 to build it, I'm still gonna be, and then I'm not gonna buy like a crashed vehicle you know what I'm saying, to build it. No, if I'm gonna build a car, it's either gonna be a car I had in my collection and now I want to modify it because I've enjoyed it, it's a classic already, or I got a really good deal on it or something like that. Or there's a client that really, really wants one, right? So taking that into consideration, considering the investment with Companion, and being able to show you guys some of the early steps in development. Remember, this takes years and it takes millions and millions and millions of dollars. Just to give you an example, hold on. Let me Give me one quick second. This way we can we can study the markets as well. Actually, you know what? Let me put it on Pro Tools while we take a quick little break. Um, Kalunga Speedster is nice. Let me see if we can power this up. That way I could transfer from one monitor to the next. Okay, excellent. So let's go. Okay. This is hilarious, yo. Another thing, good thing to mention on a technology spectrum, Elon Musk wants to put Grok inside of Teslas, which is another copy of Radarplex. And this servant of God is the founder, the designer of Radarplex. And they're so fucking late to the party. The model that we're gonna build is going to test Grok's capabilities. So we're gonna do everything conversation style as we always do, and all these commercials. Okay, so let's put this in and let's put this in. Excellent. This way, while we're having a discussion, we can still absorb. You know what I mean? Come on, come on, come on, come on. That's enough of that. Make sure we put everything on the monitors. That way I can see everything. Okay, here we go. Now we have better control because I got Pro Tools. Okay, so let's see what the updates are real quick.
This is Asia Train. I'm Shivrian in
Let's check the
Tokyo.
markets.
I'm Heidi Stroud-Watts in Sydney. The top stories this hour. Asian stocks are set for a positive start as investors brush off trade war worries. Megacaps leading Wall Street gains, with Nvidia briefly touching a $4 trillion valuation. A 20-year Japanese bond auction today, putting the focus back on rising yields. President Trump unveiling new tariff threats, including a 20%
Excellent
rate for the
news.
Philippines and 50% for Brazil.
Excellent news. As of 6 minutes ago, Bitcoin hits fresh record high, surges past 113,000. Bitcoin surged on Thursday, surpassing its previous all time high and trading just above 113,000, baby. The recent rise is supported by expectations of favorable regulatory changes and sustained momentum from the approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs earlier this year. Additionally, growing mainstream adoption and ongoing macroeconomic uncertainty continue to drive demand. As of 1:06 p.m. Eastern Time, Bitcoin had increased by 1.54%. Let's see. Hold on. Move this a little bit. I like to always adjust everything. See if we can see for production. You got to do this. All right. You guys ready? Okay. Additionally, growing mainstream adoption and ongoing macroeconomic uncertainty continue to drive demand. As of 1:06 p.m. Eastern Time, Bitcoin had increased by 1.54% and was priced at 113,000. Meanwhile, Ethereum rose by 1.82%. Blink 182 just 2 minutes later, trading at 2,820. That is amazing. Ethereum stands in the Green Ranger 1.44%, $2,809.80. Excellent investment. Bitcoin US dollar in the Green Ranger 1.80%, holding steady $113,287 even. All right, let's see. Oh, all right, look, we spoke about mentorship and maturity. There's nothing wrong with giving everybody their props, right? I have a unique relationship with Elon Musk and Tesla. Why? Because I started my company competing against, their technology on the civilian application side. Then we started competing on the military application side. Then back in the military application side, and it's just been an ongoing battle. Now, I always tell people, you know, your way of doing business matters because we went from competing to working together under different circumstances and understanding that, you know what, there's enough for everybody. Look how big the universe is, right? So think about that in business. Never compete with anybody else. You're only in competition with yourself. Worry about your success, win at your own triathlon. Don't worry about everybody else. Focus on you. So, as a show of showmanship, look what I'm going to do for you, Mr. Elon. Tesla climbs 3.8% on Grok integration promise. You see, we just spoke about it. I'm not hating. I'm letting you know it's inferior technology, antiquity technology compared to Radarplex, but I'm happy that he's trying. I give him props for trying, right? All right, Tesla Incorporated traded 3.8% above the line in the market session on Thursday after CEO Elon Musk announced that xAI's chatbot Grok will be integrated into Tesla vehicles by next week at the latest. Wow. Yo, all right. You get props, but don't worry, we coming. Give us a few more years. All right, I like that. I like that. Always from a sportsmanship. I played every sport. I practice every martial art that you could think about. So I just have a very deep discipline for competition, right? The upbeat sentiment next week at the latest. The upbeat sentiment came after the largely disappointing week for the car maker giant, whose stock suffered a heavy blow on Monday after Musk announced.
Sending the real tumbling.
Hold on. After Musk announced the formation of a new political party, losing the company more than 68 billion in market cap. Tesla shares jumped 3.85% at 9:42 a.m. Eastern Time. Um, okay, my advice to Elon Musk and to people like Musk, it's not that serious, man. This is what you're good at. Stick to this. You know what I'm saying? You're good at cars. Do the damn thizzle. I made a comment on my community. My mentees are laughing because of a little situation that happened with Gronk. Um, Again, we're not gonna feed the nonsense, but it's horrible. Okay. All right, let's continue. Asia, baby. Hey, Sharian, that's another one of my shorties, yo. Word up. All right, check this out. Xiaomi auto deliveries surpassed 300,000 in 15 months. Okay. Xiaomi Corporation shared on Thursday that its auto deliveries of the SU7 model have surpassed 300,000 units since launch back in March 2025. So for my students, think about it. This is oh no no no, wait a minute. This is a mistake. 3 million. They misspelled that. Xiaomi Corporation shared on Thursday that its auto deliveries of the SU7 model have surpassed 3 million units since launch back in 2025 in March. Amazing, yo. Xiaomi Motors has been on the market for 15 months and has delivered over, okay, that's the correction, 300,000 units. Okay, so you know what that means? It's not 3 million. First, we thought it was 300,000. Then we thought it was 3 million. Now we know it's 300,000, right? So think about this like this, right? We have an investment where we cannot deliver a hyper vehicle to a client at a profit for anything close to 300,000. In order for us to be competitive, we have to come in between 100,000 or less. It's no point if we make a vehicle that's 150,000 or 200,000 or 225,000, to give you an example. By comparison, this company that's been in the market for 15 months. Now, you know, I've had my company for over 10 years. In 15 months, they have delivered 300,000 units. That's 300,000 SUVs. That's 300,000 families that they convince this is the safest, most comfortable, most uh, travel worthy vehicle, but you can still use it as an executive. It has leather seats, it has a sunroof, right? Now, my shift as a CEO was based on why don't we go back to software? Why don't we go back to RadarPlex? Why don't we go back to the autonomous driving system that is RadarPlex? We have an example in real life market data points. Tesla is bringing Grok into the forefront of civilian application vehicles. You understand what I'm saying? So we're right at the market where we need to be. We're already working on a technology that's going to simplify everything. And if we can partner with Tesla and just make their system better, which we have in the past, that's not a problem. That is maturity. That is emotional discipline. That is integrity to understand that I'm not just a young kid and I'm, building a prototype from a 959 and a fucking and a Honda Prelude type SH, and I'm competing in a military competition, and I'm beating these guys 5.5 years in a row. They beat me in the last few months, and you know why they beat my company? It's in my books. All you guys know. It was because of tire technology. Tire technology that, of course, I didn't have the budget to have access to. But carbon composites, oh no, baby. My technology is from the future. Way better construction. But remember, KTM delivered a car for 300,000. You can use that in your writing study. Analyze what the differences are. How can we build a vehicle when we're doing all the prototyping in real time? And you know that an eighth generation Corvette is going to run you over 100,000 because there's parts and packages that we get a discount by buying them all together. And that has nothing to do with my business partnership with Chevrolet or Team Corvette or Team C8R GT3R, which is, prototype unlimited class. As an engineer, also as an influencer, because all of my concerts, all of my events, guess what? Sponsored by Chevrolet. One concert leads to a wedding leads to a sweet 16, a quinceañera, then it's a corporate event, then it's a private event, and before you know it, that's a whole nother tour. I have 172 dates between Canada and fucking Australia, and we're just getting started. So imagine the workload of me being an artist. I have to still be a CEO, a COO. We gave an example yesterday of different corporate structures when we spoke about the COO being replaced in Apple, working directly with the CEO, which is Tim Cook. Now, picture yourself as that executive. I'm the CEO, you're the COO. What would be your perspective when considering what financial decisions to make with this investment portfolio? But from an ownership standpoint, where you have to be the CEO and you have to be the COO simultaneously, just like with the clothing, all these have an NFT. You could probably find this shirt online. You could go Amazon, eBay, Temu, or Alibaba, for example. Or you could Google wherever you could find it. You could probably find the shirt, but you're not going to find the shirt with my NFT on it, making my shirt a completely new product. So yesterday, for example, we also showcased a few of the basketball shoes. That was like the children's line. And we have the low tops, like I got the low top for the girls and all that, but the high tops, yo, exclusive. They got the NFTs, they got the music in them. What else you want me to tell you? Game over. How much is a pair of sneakers like that? You know how much I could charge for my sneakers? But I'm also conscious that all of my brands, even the jewelry, is silver and moissanite. You can put laboratory grown diamonds, but that's a whole nother business that I have to hire executives that understand my recycling business because I am in that business, as well as precious metals because that all goes together in harmony with jewelry manufacturing. And again, look at the even the recent podcast with Nori on Drink Champs. Who did he have on there? A very famous jeweler. This guy has done jewelry for the royal family. I have business ventures with them for real estate, but not for jewelry. I'm in a partnership with Jacob and Co. That's his world, just like music is my world. Why would I go into that dynamic or that realm offering jewelry opportunities? When, for example, like I already have custom caviars and the astronomias, and you know what I'm saying? Like that's his thing. Those clients that buy those pieces of jewelry from him buy vehicles from me or private jets, to give you an example. So those are all new investments that before I never considered because it's a different dynamic. But it's no different than me owning a hypercar and the car's worth, a few $1 million. I have private jets that are worth a few $1 million. But the dynamic is different. The maintenance is different. The regulations is just as prophetic as racing Formula One or prototype class or GT3 type class. Whether you're a privateer or not, even if you have corporate sponsors, you're going to spend a lot of money because the technology and the data points that you're going to recover from that are priceless. So it's not for me about complaining. It's just accepting this is what it is. There were miners in full closets that I was buying for $30,000. I don't even want to know what the price of those computers are right now. There's a lot of hopper systems that are what, $4 or $5 million. So now, as a CEO, this is what I'm faced with as a challenge. Do I buy a new hopper system to use as an example, meaning, $5 million worth of those computers? Let me pause this real quick. Or do I invest in the technology that uses it and make a profit even better down the line, where I don't have to depend so much on hardware and focus more on the software because they go hand in hand and both are expensive to develop. Both are very expensive to develop. Let me look at these charts. Oh, there's a comparison. Okay, so we went back what? Okay, not too bad. But just to give you an example, right? So put yourself in the throne of the CEO. What kind of decisions would you make and why? Do you understand the dilemma, the difference between being an entrepreneur, an artist, an influencer, an author, an engineer, a rapper, a singer, whatever? Somebody that's in the recycling business. Why? Because a lot of my electric prototypes use all Tesla components, and there's a high content of aluminum in all of those vehicles. So if I'm invested in aluminum, it's just like investing in silver and in gold or in copper or copper 3M. Why is copper 3M more than an ounce of gold? How many people know that and understand that? What if that's the technology inside of my vehicles? What if it's inside of my jewelry? But again, I'm showcasing all of these products because you don't know which geese is going to lay the golden egg. On my neck, I'm considering adjusting the business model. Why? Because now I'm going to get into consulting. And I feel bad sometimes to have to show my mentees, like, it's almost $400,000 to speak to me for an hour. So I'm going to take out of my time. I'm going to use this cash flow and reinvest it into the same technology, which is extremely expensive. Extremely expensive. All I can do is be inspired by an Elon Musk. I'm not with the political bullshit. You already know. My world is technology, so everything else that's not technology, not interested, does not exist in my universe, right? But from a business standpoint, what can you learn? If you're competing at your own pace, you're winning at your own race, you're not comparing yourself to anybody else. Number one rule is protect the brand. Right now, I have to admire from a sportsmanship standpoint, like, all right, he's trying to protect the brand. I like that business move. And again, today's module is completely based on that. But this is just to give you a premise of how important this technology is. For example, for me, investing in Companion is an amazing thing, and I have to be careful with all of the rules and the parameters. So, again, this is from emotional maturity, emotional stability. This is from embracing a new perspective based on growth. And you yourself, as an entrepreneur, may find yourself in some of these forks in the road. You're trying to decide what would be the best thing. Well, the best thing is to stay in it. That is the strategy. At least those of us that have the headaches of dealing with technology every day, I'm Space Force, Air Force, like Homeland Security, Department of Defense forever, G.I. Joe forever. You know what I'm saying? All these stresses are because I invested into this technology. Most people have not. Most people do not understand. You cannot explain to a person that the same technology in a smart device, portable, rechargeable, a digital platform, you're going to find in a high performance race car. Like, it takes that much processing power. Everything is processing power, everything is data points. This is why these large language models are being promoted in an improper way. They are large language models. Just that correction, that's what my company does. This is what makes things different. It's like Future Tech Plus. There's other franchises called Future Tech Plus, but none are online magazine. None are master classes turned into courses, turned into coaching and personal development, and none turned into books. The company grew on its own. I'm no longer going to be using all the time LinkedIn as the publisher. Now I have YouTube. I've published a few articles on YouTube, but I didn't think that it was going to become part of my day to day. Now, when I upgrade my systems, everything that I publish on the books or in the courses, master classes, series, everything from the books is going to be on Future Tech Plus, vice versa. We'll use clips and things like that. I'll make it into NFTs so they're collectible. Then that will be published on YouTube and we could completely monetize it. Again, another business model. We gave the example with Mr. Mauricio Ruiz at the manager's playbook. In his last interview, the A&R, who is manager of the year for Canada, she said that she was an A&R and R and then she had a vlog at the same time. So she was multi-dimensional. That's multi-level marketing in a positive standpoint because not only was she dealing with the day-to-day from an A&R executive standpoint, she was an executive in training at that time, still developing talents. She had to go through what was good management, what was bad management, what were her strengths and weaknesses. This is over a course of time with people that she's actually growing up. And you know how she's penetrating the system? She has a vlog. So now she has different ways digitally to go in there and release an article, write an article, a publication, upload a song. You know what she used to do? Yo, she used to walk for hours. I do that shit all the time. Working out, listening to fucking music. And the songs that stood close to her heart, those are the songs she promoted to the label, and she got mad people deals just by listening to the music and really looking for good music. Like when you're a professional in the music business, good music is all that you live for. Good music is your motivation, is your drive. Everything from the music stems to other things. So she got the opportunity being an A&R for other labels. She got to learn the game, right? But because she had a vlog, she was able to get into rooms, into conversations, and create moments that other people would be unable to do so because she's a writer. She's just vlogging. This song is hot in this region. Those songs are her artists. She's negotiating the deal with the label. She took over the whole market with technology, with intelligence, just trying. You know what she would tell people as networking, and again, this is all for your finals, right? She would invite people to the fucking museum. She would invite people to art galleries. She would take them out of their comfort zone where they could be more creative and really be themselves and really be respectful. And she would really talk about business, genius. And she's giving away the game for the people that want to pour into themselves. I knew that my family came from poverty. I knew that my family came from pain. I knew that my family came from struggle. So I had to educate myself. I had to take my responsibilities more serious because I made it about them. I had to do it for their future. They're not going to understand what I'm doing. I was taking 24 college credits a semester, and they used to ridicule me. When I graduated, nobody came to none of my graduations except my wife and my children, which is all I needed, and the people from the church, my business partners, and stuff like that. But that shit left me scarred for many years because they didn't want to realize. Again, you could see the same face and you could think, oh, it's the same person. No, I'm 40 plus. I have grandkids. I own a technology company. There's nothing really that we could talk about. If you don't know anything about technology, how can we hold a conversation? Because it doesn't matter what you're talking to me about. My mind is on technology. My mind is on Nvidia. My mind is on Intel, Sun Microsystems. Everything is technology for me. Xiaomi is doing their thing from selling cell phones and electronics to selling cars. Correlation. Why can't it be sustainable, accepted for Xiaomi to do that, and I can't do that personally? Why do my friends and family want to put me into this box? This is all you are, this little, and I'm like, no, no, no. I'm this whole universe. What can I do but be inspired? Who taught me? My mentors. Why are we talking about mentorship? Why are we talking about consulting business and personal development and life coaches. I will run fucking marathons, triathlons around all of these CEOs. They can't maintain. I have BlackRock and Blackstone right here. So there's nothing else to talk about. The only thing that can exist now is business. Again, I'm still a human being. I have thoughts, feelings, emotions like everybody else. I knew I had to educate myself. I had to fight for a better future. I had to keep going to school. I had to start in a community college. I had to have a bunch of odd jobs. I'm a barber, carpenter, fucking mechanic, designer, engineer, whatever you need me to do. If it's a legal job, I will work my motherfucking ass off every single day. I know what it's like to lose my freedom and civilian rights and my credentials and not be able to do things. Like for so many years, I had to have business partners and they knew my situation, so they took advantage of that. Now I don't need to have business partners. Now I get to choose who are my business partners. I get to take my time and cherry pick and say, this person, I need them in my company. This person, I need them in my corporation. This person, I need them in my system. You know how many millionaires I made and they all turned their backs on me? Emotionally, physically, psychologically, mentally, financially, any other way that you could think about. It wasn't just like it was one pillar, one tier. It was like, no, like you made me rich. Why the fuck do I need you? Everything you taught me, you just gave to me, and now I can use it to build. I don't need you anymore because that perspective is from a sense of lack. There's not enough. Not understanding the macro picture. Again, what my mentors instilled in me is there's just so much for everybody. NASDAQ futures 100 down 2.25%, in the red 0.01%, $23,050.25 a share. S&P futures 60 no 6,307 and 50 cents, up 0.25%. Ticker single symbol UNCH. So basically, these are the things that are, you know, flowing through the mind of a CEO every single day. I've done marketing campaigns for a few of my friends. Um, I've worked on different systems. All during this process, I'm in this negotiation, but I'm still keeping, boots on the ground. You see, I open the dealership every few days and I sell some exclusive cars. These are cars that I don't need to sell more than one, two, or three of these cars in a year. Now I still have other vehicles for other people and other different programs. And now that I'm invested in technology, I ask myself, okay, can I build a program for financing? Or can I build a better financing system? Can I create the collateral to provide loans for people that find it hard to finance a vehicle or a home or a business or education? I'm in the banking business as well because I have my own bank. So this is just to give you an example. I'm constantly learning, constantly educating myself, constantly teaching. And I'll give you an example in real time. Bloomberg Technology, pretty decent channel. I think a lot of the swords in there are getting dull. The Asian version, which of course you know I'm executive producer, our first episode has beat every episode before and every episode after. And you see the difference in our specialists and the perspective, which is when you come to my community, I'm giving you the perspective. Just like Tony Robbins would say, I'm the why guy, right? I want to know why things work the way that they do. How do things function? How can we make it better? Yes, we have the ZR1 Team Chevrolet. Excellent. Now we have the ZR1X. What's coming next? C9. You already know we have to, almost finish the ninth generation Corvette because in a few years, it's time for the new model. Now, from an investment standpoint, as a stockholder in Chevrolet, I'm like, damn, when is the car coming out? Because when we're prototyping, there's 20 versions of the car. We don't know what Chevrolet's going to say, okay, we're going to use this design. Sometimes designs don't even make it to have a name, they just have a code, you know? So, and again, when we're programming, We'll get into that a little bit more. But when you guys write your paper, this is what I want you guys to focus on. What decisions would you make based on today's data points? Also, I want you to include the fact that Bitcoin stands at above 113,000. How much value has this brought to you? And what value can you get out of this? How can you implement this in your investments, your products, your services, your industry, your trade, your career, your education? How can this also impact your personal life? When you're making decisions, are you thinking about investments thoroughly where you're considering not just the upside, what will be the challenges? Most franchises put everything outwards, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So if you have an investment or if you have a relative that has an investment, understand that that person is going to go through that process 5, 6, 7, 8 years. With my technology company, the newest version of the company, I'm only going to be completing what, 8 going on 9 years. And it seems like it was yesterday. And it's been extremely hard and people don't understand, like they cannot um imagine the difficulty, the challenges that you have to go through. It's very hard. It's very stressful on all of your relationships because people don't understand. When you're developing technology, it's not like your family can see every prototype or they can see every development. Every day you get up, you work, you research, you study, you design, you engineer, you learn, you pivot, you juke, and you move on to the next day because whatever is the number one thing today, tomorrow may be something completely different. So, why are some of my clients and some of my family members and friends going to different brands? They're no longer just going Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, which is my foundation. Hey, mama. You know what I'm saying? I'll hit you in a little bit. Give me a second. So, you get what I'm trying to say? Why all of these changes? How would you incorporate them into this corporation? Now, we're going to open a module. And right before we go on break, because I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to grab something to eat, let's see if in the module we can just find out about this brand new KTM. Let's see what's the name of the newest model, because that way we have an idea. Mm, trying to think. Bikes, motorsports. I found the actual the motorcycles, but I don't know about the cars. Let me see. I have all the generations here. Give me 1 second. And is it the Expo? No, let me keep going. All right, let's look at the Expo. This is not a bad car. I had a friend of mine that built one with an LS motor in it from a Monte Carlo. Mm, there we go. The GTX. Okay, so it is the Expo. It's just the GTX. Okay, let's read about it real quick, and then we get to go on break. All right. So just bear with me a few more minutes. Um, it's so therapeutic for me to be able to connect with you guys because a lot of you guys need mentorship. I'm just a different type of mentor, and I'm very expensive, but you'll see for yourself why. You'll understand that very, very soon. Okay, Expo GTX. The Expo GTX is a longer wheelbase, track only, race car version released in October 2020. Manufactured in collaboration with Ryder Engineering. Aesthetically, the design is very different to the standard Expo. The car uses a different engine to the standard Expo, making use of a 2.5-liter Audi TFSI 20 valve inline 5-cylinder engine. sourced from the Audi RS3. The 6-speed Hollinger sequential transmission and carbon fiber monocoque are retained. The inline 5-cylinder engine receives a number of upgrades for racing, including upgrades to the engine management system, injection valves, wastegates, intake, and exhaust. The fuse box comes from Ryder's subsidiary company Sareni United. It also comes with fully electric power steering. Expo GTXR, which is, what we are interested in. The Expo GTXR is a long wheelbase model of the Expo based on the GTX and GT2 track only race car models, built in a collaborative effort with Ryder Engineering. The car maintains the 2.5-liter Audi TFSI 20 valve inline 5-cylinder engine from the GTX, now producing 493 bhp, 493 brake horsepower. Just to give you guys an idea, this is basically a clone of the Time of Cairo, which I put it on my last album. 493 brake horsepower, no, 500 brake horsepower, 429 pound-feet of torque, 582 newton meters of torque. So that's 368 plus kilowatts of power, with power delivered through a 7-speed DSG gearbox. The GTXR also contains a 95-liter, 25-gallon, or no, 25 US, 21 Europe specs gallon fuel tank. As a result of the car's more refined construction in comparison with the shorter wheelbase Expo models, it is the heaviest car in the lineup with a dry weight of 1,250 kilograms. So 2,756 pounds with a 44-56 ratio for weight distribution. So it's 56% rear bias, mid-engine rear-wheel drive for weight distribution. So 45-56 ratio. It's 0 to 60, 0 to 97 kilometers per hour. Factory time is 3.4 seconds and has a top speed of 174 miles per hour. It costs north of 300 euros, 300,000. So 174 with 500 horsepower, you turn this motor up, you could do 200 miles an hour. The reality is that you really don't need it. But let us continue. The KTM Expo has been the selected car for use in the Race of Champions All-Star event since 2008. The KTM Expo Battle Race Series started in 2010 and was a support event for the DTM German Touring Car Series at Adria Raceway in 2010 and Lausitzring in 2011. Marcus Cluton and Phil Keen won the Supersports category with a modified Expo in the 2009 British GT Championship. SRO GT4. The Expo GT4 on display at the 2016 Festival Automobile Internacional. That's a beautiful design. It's like a matte gray carbon fiber package with the red accents, red interior. A modified KTM Expo was raced in the Supersport category of the 2008 FIA GT4 Championship. Katharina Felsler, Christopher Hayes, and Dennis Rettera took a podium finish at Monza and pole position in the wet qualifying session at Nogaro. Peter Belshaw and Marcus Clouton were the GT4 champions in the 2011 season of the British GT Championship in a modified X-Bow. KTM teased the factory GT4 version of the Expo in 2014, which they would later unveil in 2015. Also, I want you to be inspired and again inclined to write about that in your finals. Xiaomi delivered 300,000 vehicles in 15 months. We have 10 to 15 years of just development. So imagine how hard it's been for us to produce even a few dozen prototypes over 15 years. This company, obviously, they're gigantic, right? They could do it in 15 months. But it goes to show you, again, makes me realize, you know what? The toy line is better, the products and the services. It's better for me to make my Hot Wheels than it is to build the actual vehicle for right now. Why? Because my competition is designing a car today and releasing it within 2 years. And that's something that as a company, we are very far from being able to do something as simple as that. Why? Because one minor change in technology and you have to start all over again. There's no such thing as second place in technology. You're either in the future or nothing else matters. KTM teased a factory GT4 version of the Expo in 2014, which they would later unveil in 2015. The Expo GT4 was built in collaboration with Ryder Engineering and Kiska, Kiska. The vehicle features a closed cockpit design to comply with glass regulations. It also maintains the 2.0-liter turbocharged Audi inline-4 engine and the 6-speed Hollinger sequential transmission. So this one is the original design. This is the Tamakaira style clone. You know that the latest version of the Tamakaira had the RB series. It had a GTR motor in it. But we'll get more into that because we do have a module on it. Both are modified for racing. To accommodate the rules and regulations, the wheelbase is extended by 17 centimeters. The Expo GT4 debuted in the 2015 GT4 European Series and took its first win in its debut at the circuit Zandvoort round. It also empowered Brett Sandberg to the 2016 Pirelli World Champion GTS Championship with multiple wins. An upgrade was introduced in 2018 with improvements in durability and performance. An evolution model for the X-Bow GT4 was released in 2019 as the X-Bow GT4 Evo. The update was directed towards increasing the car's straight line speed while maintaining the cornering capabilities of the previous X-Bow GT4. It also received a power increase, now producing 375 brake horsepower, 280 kilowatts plus 380 brake horsepower, under balance of performance. So again, this goes to show you modifications are a little bit different. They took the penalty, ran four-cylinder, force induction class, but it gave them access to the 6-speed sequential. And even though it's less power, you know, it's a longer wheelbase, so it's more stable. It's, you know, less than 400 horsepower. And again, in today's world, this is a car from what is this race was what 2016. To give you an example, at this point, the car's pretty much advanced, very developed. Um, Even building something like this, which I have designs that can compete with this design right here. Yo, less than 400 horsepower right now is equivalent to about 1200. In less than 10 years, the amount of power that you need is almost 3.5 to 3.9 of what it originally was. Me personally, I would like a vehicle with 200 horsepower as a race car. With the best technology, give me 222 horsepower and I'm good. 400 is crazy. Anything above that, anything above 200 is a race car. You know how many people drive a regular vehicle don't understand that? Look at the discussion they were having earlier with Gronk integrating into the Teslas and robo taxi, how the sensors are different and the engineering costs are completely different. The technology, if you understand it, you understand it. That's it. And sometimes people take that into offense. Like, do you understand what the technology is? If you don't, then I really find it hard to have a conversation because people just don't understand. They're using an assistant with artificial intelligence like it's Google. If that's your use, then you just don't understand the technology. And that should be an incentive. And again, things that my mentors taught me, that should be an incentive for you to go educate yourself on it. You know, that's it. Look, one of the versions of the race car is like the standard car, top speed 217 kilometers per hour. That's only 134, 135 miles an hour. You don't need more than that. Anything above 125 is a race car. And again, cars have become so heavy that they need to have this power to advertise so people could buy them. But they're just so heavy. They're so inefficient and effective, right? Weight is power and power is weight. I didn't understand that until my mentors in engineering taught me, if the car is not so heavy, it doesn't need that much power. Why would it need so much power? Because it's fucking heavy. It's a vaca. We call that a cow in Spanish. If the car is a fucking cow, then it needs to have a bazillion horsepower. But then driving dynamics suffer. You want a car that is fun to drive in all circumstances. That is the best pleasure in driving. That's it. And on a racetrack, you want the car to be safe and competitive, but you also want it to be reliable. You don't want a car that's just going to guzzle gasoline and every few laps you have to pit in to go fucking fill up the tank. This car only has 25 gallons, 21 for European specs. So I'm going to assume that the race car has only 21 gallons and they may have a penalty on that. I don't know if the trade off is worth losing one piston. But this car is 300,000 and I see why. Let's put it on the rig and we'll be able to get out of here. Good. Excellent. All right. Here we go. Wheelbase 2,430 millimeters, 95.7 inches. Length 3,388 millimeters, 147.2 inches. Width 1,915 millimeters, 75.4 inches. Height 1,202 millimeters, 47.3 inches in height. Curb weight, let's go with the least amount, 790 kilograms, 1,740 pounds. Now, just for comparison, let's pull up an MR2 SW21. We may do the following module just to refresh, especially the graduating class, because I'm going to need your help with the new students coming in. So let's go put it on the rig. Make sure we're at Gen 2, right? Okay, let's just put it on the rig just so we get an idea, okay? So 94.5 inches versus 95.7, MR2 in the first lane of the simulator. Okay, all right. Length for the ATM, it's 147.2. Length is 164.2 again, MR2. Width 75.4 inches. Width is 66.7 inches. Imagine if I made it just that wide. Just that wide. Okay. Height 47.3 for the KTM Expo. And the height for the MR2 is 48.6 to 48.8. So the KTM takes the lead. Hold on. I don't know why this does this. Okay. Now let's go curb weight. Curb weight, we're going to go with the lowest number, hard top, right? Hard top, 1,250 kilograms, 2,755 pounds for a 93 turbo GTS, which you know that that's not our vehicle, but that's okay. Oh, no, wait a minute. No, 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 correction. SW21 is 2,599. It's 1,179 kilograms. That's the correct car because that's 91. So 2599 curb weight. 2599 goes in between the GTX, which is the car that we need. That one's 2310, 1,048 kilograms for the GTX. But the GTXR is 1,250 kilograms, 2760, 2,760 pounds for the winner. The MR2, baby. 2599. Use your hyper scientific. Let's see what's the difference in the actual weight. Because then we could put it on the simulator and see the difference in performance. So please pull out your hyper scientific and let's do the math real quick. So the total highest number is what? 2760. We're going to subtract 2599. So it's 161 pounds lighter than the GTXR. And then from the GTS, it's 2599 minus 2310 for the GT regular one. So we're 289 pounds heavier than the GTX, but we're 161 pounds lighter than the GTXR. And because they took the penalty and took the turbo, we can go turbo. And they're around what? 400 horsepower plus. So now we can triple our horsepower because our baseline is what? 142 horsepower. So doubling it is what? 284. We still got room. They're up in like 400 because they're running GT4 class. So we could if they're running 14 pounds of boost, we could probably run 18, 19 pounds of boost and get them on the top end of the track. All right. So we'll be right back. Stretch, grab you something to eat. We'll be right back in one quick second. Faster than I can go like this, we'll be back with chapter 2. God bless. You guys have the best teacher in the world. Peace out.